Sumas Valley is now closed due to flooding. Closures are also in place for Highway 1, the Coquihalla, Highway 3 from Hope and Princeton. The Minister of Agriculture says 66 farms are under evacuation order and 99 farms are under evacuation alert. The animals range from poultry to livestock, and the province is promising to help with relocation. And in Chilliwack, several people had to be rescued overnight after they were trapped by rising waters. 5 people and 4 dogs were stranded on an island in the Chilliwack River. North Shore Rescue says 2 technicians and a helicopter had to hoist the group up to safety amid challenging weather conditions. Evacuation orders and alerts also remain in effect in the area. Residents of 10 properties along the Chilliwack River have been told to pack up and leave immediately. Dozens others nearby are on alert. However, based on the current forecast, the city's mayor told the early edition this morning that he's feeling optimistic compared to the 2021 historic floods.
Back then, it was like 6 or 7 days of the same amount of rain. We had 24 hours, maybe, somewhere like around there with that kind of rain volume. But so far, so good.
The city of Chilliwack has made sandbags available at Heritage Park and at the Yarrow Sports Field. And Environment Canada has released preliminary data after yesterday's atmospheric river, recording rainfall up to 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. So between 85 and 145 millimeters of rain fell in the Fraser Valley. In Metro Vancouver, between 47 and 71 millimeters fell. While researchers in Washington say they are cautiously optimistic after spotting a baby southern resident killer whale swimming in Puget Sound earlier this week. Nonprofit group Orca Conservancy says the calf was spotted at Richmond Beach Saltwater Park in Washington State on Tuesday. The group's director of development was out tracking K-Pod when she saw the whale come out of the water. And while she says she's happy to have a new member in the pod, she is worried about its survival.
Can't grow that population without babies. But for K-Pod specifically, this is the smallest pod of the southern resident killer whales, and they have only, counting this new calf, they've only had 3 births in the span of 14 years. So calves have become a rarity for this pod.
And Kelly says the 3 main threats the whales face, including declining food sources, polluted waters, and vessel noise. And very quickly before we wrap, of course, the Whitecaps have now entered into a memorandum of understanding with the city of Vancouver to explore the opportunity for a new stadium at Hastings Racecourse Park. We've got much more local news on the way. Don't go anywhere. BC Today is up next.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Well, yesterday's heavy rains have slowed down, but flooding and the risk of flooding remain. We'll take you to Abbotsford. We'll talk to the mayor of Hope as well, and we'll hear the latest from the province. We're also taking your calls. How have the flooding, evacuations, and highway closures affected you? Plus, a new poll has found a link between community involvement and life satisfaction. Do you feel you belong to a community? And what difference does that make for you? We'll have that conversation after 12:30. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. In the last hour, BC's Emergency Management and Climate Readiness Minister, Kelly Green, issued an update. Now, she said while the rain has slowed, BC is not yet through the emergency.
We are anticipating continued flow from the Nooksack today and rising water levels, and are prepared for difficult days and nights ahead. We have been through these challenges before, and we have seen what we can accomplish when we all work together. We will do whatever it takes to protect people and communities, because in moments like these, no one stands alone. The level of proactive partnership and cooperation between people, communities, and government has been incredible. As of this morning, there are approximately 400 properties under evacuation order and approximately 1,800 properties under evacuation alert due to flooding in the Fraser Valley Regional District, the City of Abbotsford, and the Regional District of Okanagan-Smilkameen.
So as you heard, 400 properties under evacuation order, 1,800 under evacuation alert. Let's take you to Abbotsford now, where there is a local state of emergency. And CBC's Jessica Cheung has been there all morning. Jess, can you tell us where you are right now and what it has looked like throughout the morning?
Yeah, Michelle. So we are in Abbotsford, the south of Abbotsford, as south as you can really go before hitting the border in the U.S. And we've been pushed back from this road that has been washed out. And I'm going to get a zoom in on where we were, which is where those railway tracks were. That's where we were standing when we were watching this water come in from Sumas, which is the bordering city with Abbotsford on the U.S. side. And they pushed us back because the water was streaming in very quickly, threatening the houses, that row of houses there as well. And so they pushed us back just for safety reasons. But I do want to show you what it actually looked like when we were there, because the viz is incredible, because the water completely swallowed the road there. We were actually standing on it just minutes before. It was completely dry. You could see grass on either side. And within half an hour, the water completely just engulfed that road, and we had to be pushed back. And it was really, there was debris coming in everywhere, and the debris actually gave us, a sense of really how fast the water was moving. You saw wheelbarrows and boxes and all this type of debris moving very fast in the water, just to show how powerful this stream of water coming from Sumas was. And that water also engulfed a farm that was there, and I spoke with the farm owner there. She didn't want to be on camera, but she did say that there were 160,000 chickens in her farm. Not quite sure how many of those are going to be impacted, but she's of course sitting there very weary watching this water come in. And so the city of Sumas posted on their social media saying this morning that floodwaters were creeping into their town. And you can just imagine what that looks like even when you see the water that's flowing into Abbotsford right now. And of course, this is the aftermath of just a deluge of rain that came over the past 24 hours. Environment Canada said that 140 millimeters of rain fell in Hope, 110 in Chilliwack. So we are talking about a lot of rain in a very short amount of time. And when we were on that washed out road, actually, there were a number of residents around just watching all of this happen. We spoke to one who said that he was working overnight to, door knock on his neighbors' doors to make sure that they knew that there was flooding, to make sure to get out. But he does suspect that a lot of people chose to stay in their homes despite evacuation orders and alerts in the area. He didn't want to speak with us on camera, but we did speak with one resident about why they chose to stay in their house during a flooding event like this. And take a listen to what he had to say.
I know some of the farmers, especially the ones who are here in 2021, they now know what the water levels are going to look like. And some of them, as you can see, there's a house around the corner. And even this fellow here, as you can see, he's built his house up higher specifically for an event like this. So definitely, and I've people won't be leaving, especially some of my farmer neighbors, because they've got cows and chickens and things that they have to look after. And the last time we were evacuated for 5 days, which is definitely a bit of a problem, when you've got livestock that requires, maintenance on a regular basis.
So, Jessica, what do residents need to keep in mind then in the coming hours?
Yeah, well, crews are working right now to kind of manage some of the flooding. They were sandbagging in the area that I was talking about to kind of try to protect against some, damage on the houses that are there and the businesses that are there. But obviously, flooding is the main concern right now. One of the big concerns that we're looking at and monitoring is the Nooksack River in Washington State, which breached its banks yesterday and is spilling over the Canadian border into Abbotsford. And of course, this river was a huge, it had a huge impact on how catastrophic the 2021 floods here were. And so, of course, everyone's keeping an eye on that to see how that progresses. Now, the River Forecast Center does say that while some areas are improving, there are swells in Sumas and the Nooksack River, that it'll still be challenging for several days. And so, of course, that's what we're going to be looking into. I spoke with the River Forecast Center earlier today, and take a listen to what they had to say.
It has reached its peak. So it's really positive, at least in terms of the outlook as we go beyond today. But really, that water still needs to kind of work its way through. So that's going to be through the day today. The peak there was a few hours ago. And so really, it's probably going to be another 6-8 hours potentially before we get to the peak at the overflow site, and it could well be into the evening before the water drops down enough where that flow stops into Canada.
Yeah, so of course, a lot to be looking at in terms of how this kind of spillage from the Nooksack River kind of plays out today. A local state of emergency here in Abbotsford is still in place. We're looking at around 140 properties that are under an evacuation order and over 1,000 that are under an alert. Now, a reception center has been set up at the Abbotsford Recreation Center for anyone who needs it. People are also advised to put together a go bag in case they have to leave quickly, especially the people who are under evacuation alert, so that they're prepared if they need to leave their home quickly. Michelle.
Jessica, thank you so much for this latest update. That's CBC's Jessica Cheung live in Abbotsford. And this morning as well, the provincial government updated the province on its flood response and on those major highway closures. Janelle State is with the Ministry of Transportation and Transit, and she listed the major roads that remain closed.
Highway 1 eastbound in the Bridal Falls area remains closed as a result of a mudslide overtopping the highway. Ministry engineers have assessed the site from the air and confirmed that water continues to flow from the mountain due to high streams. We will continue to monitor this area to determine when it's safe for crews to begin clearing debris and necessary repairs. We expect to have a full update later today on reopening timeline. Highway 1, the Coquihalla, remains closed in both directions between Hope and Merritt. An aerial assessment has been completed, which confirmed 2 locations requiring cleanup prior to reopening. However, there are no other signs of significant road or bridge damage. An update will be provided later today on the reopening timeline. Highway 3 between Hope and Princeton remains closed. Ministry engineers were able to complete a partial aerial assessment. However, unsafe weather conditions have delayed completion of the full assessment. The portions of the road that were assessed showed minor impacts, and repairs are underway as we await further updates from the remainder of the corridor when weather permits later today. Highway 11 is fully closed at the Sumas border crossing due to flooding. This route was previously open to localized traffic, but is now fully closed. The ministry will complete an assessment once waters have receded to determine if any repairs are needed before reopening. At this time, we don't have an estimated time of reopening. We continue to see localized flooding in other parts of the Fraser Valley. Crews are actively assessing the damage, though a full inventory of impacts is not yet available. As the rain has stopped, the risk of ground movement is decreasing. However, with ongoing moisture and warm temperatures, an elevated risk remains, and ministry staff and maintenance crews are continuing increased patrols, and ministry engineers remain on standby for immediate technical assistance if required.
That's Janelle State with the Ministry of Transportation and Transit. Again, here are the remaining highway closures. Highway 1 eastbound in the Bridal Falls area remains closed. The Coquihalla remains closed in both directions between Hope and Merritt. Highway 3 between Hope and Princeton remains closed, and Highway 11 is fully closed at the Sumas border crossing, again due to flooding. They expect an update on those closures later this afternoon, and you can check Drive BC for the very latest on highway closures. And again, more information on the flooding and the flood response, you can go to Emergency Info BC. That's Emergency Info BC for the latest information. We're taking your calls asking you, how have the flooding, the closures of highways, and evacuation orders and alerts affected you? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And you can just hit pound 690 on your cell phone as well. Our email is bctoday@cbc.ca. Nathan is calling us now from Vancouver. Hi, Nathan.
Hi.
Hi.
I just want to bring up there's like disproportionate funding between, for example, Abbotsford and Richmond. Abbotsford has one single pump station. Richmond has not double, not four times. They have 39 pump stations. They have a whole team at City Hall dedicated to writing grant reports and proposals, writing grants to the provincial and federal government. Abbotsford doesn't have that much people at their City Hall, and definitely not a team to write grants. They had the one grant which was rejected. And yeah, it's just really disproportionate. Because Richmond should be flooded, technically, but it's not, obviously.
Okay, Nathan, thank you very much. And the risk, of course, continues in the Fraser Valley. And so we have reached out, in fact, to the mayor of Abbotsford when it comes to how things are going there. They have been issuing updates. They did yesterday, but we'll continue to follow what the response has been there as well. That's Nathan calling us from Vancouver, talking about the possibility of disproportionate resources when it comes to the Fraser Valley versus, as he said, Richmond. You can give us a call, 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950. And you can just hit pound 690 as well. I will say that the Abbotsford Recreation Centre is the reception centre for those who have been impacted by evacuation orders and alerts in Abbotsford as well. We heard that from CBC's Jess Cheung earlier. So if you have been issued an evacuation order, that is where you are to go. And if you are under alert, you are advised to have your grab and go bag ready, including for kids and pets as well. Well, the highway closures in the Fraser Valley into the BC interior, of course, are a big part of the news, and Hope is the epicenter of the closures. So we are now speaking with the mayor of Hope. Joining us, Victor Smith is on the line. Good afternoon, Mayor Smith. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Can you tell me a bit more about what you're seeing in Hope today, for instance, to begin with, in the aftermath of yesterday's atmospheric river?
Yeah, so it's really helped today a lot that it hasn't rained because for a while last night, we were an island and all 5 roads out of here were shut off, which happened in 2021, but we're fast in response. And sometimes, like Highway 7, they just waited this morning until they could assess the damage before they went out, because working in the dark is kind of dangerous.
Sure.
So that got opened right away. So one-way traffic there. And then, as you can see by the report, that they're working on the other ones and that. We had a lot less people in town this time because the weather was ugly. So a lot of people stayed home, which is good. But we have a very strong community. A lot of volunteers were out sandbagging, helping their neighbors and everything else, that's what makes our community great. And so when we finish a flood situation like this, we'll assess the areas that were a problem with staff and then bring it to council so that we try to address them, making improvements every time. So every time there's an event, you need to review it and everything else. But we want to stress the fact that if you're coming through and heading out, you might want to make sure you got a blanket, a coat with you, and make sure your vehicle's full of fuel, because it could change in any minute, and then you're sitting there and it's nothing worse than you run out of fuel in the middle of nowhere, right? So we want to make sure everybody's safe and pay attention. And very much like they said before, grab bag, had some water, a little bit of food with you. It's the time of year, right?
Absolutely. And I remember in 2021, the number of people who were stuck in and around Hope and the way residents and your community opened up spaces for them.
Yeah, we and you know what? That's interesting to say that because a lot of those are lifelong friends now. You know, and it was really interesting when we had at the emergency center, people had a retriever dog. They just got us a puppy, came down, and they named it Hope after the flood being here.
Oh, wow. It's the memory certainly is still there. And I think given yesterday's atmospheric river, people had those memories coming right back, whether hopeful, as you mentioned, or, some of that trauma as well. We heard from Nathan, who called in just now, about what he called a disproportionate distribution of resources that I think he was referring to the Barrowtown pump. And, we know the issues that had in 2021. From what I'm hearing, it seems to have held up this time around. What can you say about that in terms of the resources that have been allocated to the Fraser Valley in the wake of the 2021 atmospheric river?
Yeah, so for us personally here, we did a channel we put in by the hospital as a relief valve with working with the government, and that has definitely made a difference now. It's taken the pressure off because every time that happened, we were always concerned about flooding down the whole Princeton Highway and also our hospital. So having something like that helps happen. But I sitting on the regional district board, I know that Cheung and Abbotsford are very concerned about their areas, and it's such a flat area. It's very prone to flooding, and it needs a huge amount of funding in that to fix that. And we're all in this together. So we meet every day with the ministry and that, and we talk to each other and mayors and that, and make sure that everybody's working on the same page.
What would you make of the provincial response this time around then?
Actually, they responded to us immediately. The Premier just phoned me actually 15 minutes ago, and our emergency response here is all got a big thank you there from the government, how quickly we're acting. We have got better, but the government was really good about reaching out, and our local MLA is right first thing in the morning right here too to make sure. So I think they've been very good.
And finally, Mayor, given the ongoing closure of the Coquihalla, Highway 3, you had suggested, people traveling through or planning to travel should be equipped. But what do you expect? Yeah. What are you watching for then, given those highway closures?
Well, right now it's not that bad. So we took a look there. So the weather's going to be pretty high. The freezing level's gone right up. So water is probably the biggest concern right now. But it looks like it's going to drop off here and over the next so many days. But the freezing level is very high for the next 6 days. So always pay attention, to what the weather is going to be when you're going through the passes. It can change so quickly.
Mayor Smith, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it on this busy day. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Have a lovely day.
You too. Victor Smith is the mayor of Hope. This is BC Today. We're taking your calls as well. How have the closures, the highway closures, the flooding and evacuation orders and alerts affected you? You can call us 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950. Now, the mayor mentioned keep an eye on the weather, and certainly we have someone doing that for us here. The CBC Science and Climate Specialist, Darius Madavi, has the very latest on the Sumas River. Hi, Darius.
Hello.
Okay, so what are you observing right now?
So this morning I was watching as the river levels in the Sumas River, the water levels, were seemingly leveling off a little bit, but just in the last hour or so, they've really started to spike once again. Back in 2021, when we had the floods in the Sumas Prairie, those water levels reached about 4.2 meters. Right now, we're sitting just under 4 meters. We seemed to be leveling off at, 3.7 meters or so earlier this morning, but now they've really started to climb again. So we're keeping a very close eye on that to see if those continue to climb over the next couple hours. It's important to keep in mind that back in 2021, it was actually a couple days after the worst of the rain came that we saw a lot of the flooding. And so we're not completely out of the woods yet, even though that rain has started to, or has tapered off now.
Certainly something that the emergency management minister highlighted today, that they're still watching the Nooksack River as well. So is that to be expected then, that there will be further swelling following the rainfall?
Yes, that it takes at least several hours for the waters in the Nooksack to really start to make their way up through to BC. There are a number of rivers and waterways that connect the Nooksack up to BC and the Sumas Prairie, including the Sumas River. And so the fact that we're continuing to see those water levels climb isn't really a surprise. It's mostly about how quickly they climb and when they do start to level off. The other thing we heard about freezing levels, that can also be a concern. Water coming down from higher elevations. If we did have really high amounts of snowpack, some parts of Manning Park, for instance, have seen quite a lot of snow accumulate. And so if we do see those freezing levels continue to climb once again, we could start to see more water runoff. That could also start to become a concern in some areas. And then, of course, the rainfall. We've got a break today. We've been seeing some sunshine. But over the next few days, that rain is expected to pick up once again, mostly light tomorrow and Saturday. But Sunday and Monday could bring some very heavy rainfall once more. And it could be, I mean, we've seen a series of atmospheric river events, the first one on Monday, the last one yesterday, and now we could see another one Sunday and Monday. And that's really not the setup that we want to see, considering how saturated those soils are, how high those water levels are already.
And we know that Highway 1 eastbound in the Bridal Falls area is closed due to a mudslide. So that's certainly something that people will be watching for, is the stability of the soils around there.
That's right. A lot of things to be watching, a lot of factors to take into consideration. I do want to emphasize, the infrastructure is better. The preparedness is a lot better than it was 4 years ago. There have been preparations made on a lot of these waterways, but that doesn't mean that we're completely out of the woods. It's important to just stay informed and stay ready.
Darius, thank you so much for this latest update.
Thank you.
That's the CBC's climate and science specialist, Darius Madavi, and he'll have more throughout the day here, of course, here on CBC. It is now 12:27. You are with BC Today. We're taking your calls, asking you how the flooding, yesterday's atmospheric river, ongoing highway closures, major highway closures, and as well those evacuation orders and alerts have been affecting you. Again, go to Emergency Info BC for the latest information for your community, and Drive BC as well for the latest on road closures. Our number is 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950. Let's go to the Cowichan Valley, and Phil is calling us now. Hi, Phil. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hi. I'm not affected directly from the flooding on the ground. I was affected by the flooding from the sky. It was just horrendous here yesterday in the Cowichan Valley. So my roof was failed because of that. Just couldn't handle the amount of water that came through. I guess the roof is showing its age, the river. And I'm really concerned because, this isn't the first time we're getting these levels of atmospheric river that exceed the volume coming out of the Amazon River. And, we don't seem to be talking about what's causing this and who should be responsible for all this public money we have to spend to repair all the damages from these events.
Wow. Phil, first of all, I'm sorry for what's happened with your roof. And yes, there was an incredible amount of rain as well on Vancouver Island yesterday. Can you tell me what recourse you have now?
Well, try to find a roofer right now, guys. I don't seem to be the only one. Nobody's answering their phones, so they all must be busy. I've even tried to get Victoria roofers, and they're not answering their phones either. So I think everybody's really busy. I've got to figure out somehow how to deal with it in case the next one arrives here. Hopefully it's going to head south.
Have you been able to, have you left your home then?
No. I went up into the attic and had a look at and that's pretty well a hole. It's basically the water got just so much, the roof couldn't shed it fast enough. It's not a really steep roof, so I think just constant deluge. It just can't shed it all at once. So so it's I haven't been down to the rivers here yet, but I'm not sure if there's any slides on the Cowichan River or anything like that. I haven't heard much there. I guess I'd have to check more of the local news to see what's going on here. Absolutely. And be safe around those. We heard about the rushing waters, of course, in the Fraser Valley, but absolutely be safe. Phil, I'm sorry for what's happened, what you're dealing with with your roof. And I take your point about the bigger conversation around what's causing this and the expenses that need to go into repairs. So thank you very much for calling in. Good luck to you, okay? Okay, thanks.
Thank you. That's Phil, who called us from the Cowichan Valley, where we did hear about large amounts of rain as well on the island, and so the atmospheric river affecting people there. And he said, his roof failed under the weight of the water, and saying that he's having a hard time being able to reach roofers right now. And it sounds like perhaps other people are going through the same thing. You can email us as well if you'd like to share what you've been dealing with. It's bctoday@cbc.ca. Right now, it is 12:30. We'll get you the very latest, of course, throughout the afternoon here on CBC on the ongoing impacts of the atmospheric river, ongoing flood risk and flooding still taking place, and what you need to know when it comes to road closures and evacuation orders and alerts. We'll get the latest on that throughout the day, but right now, more as well, of course, on that big story here on CBC News with a news update. And here's Tarnjit Parmar.
Good afternoon. The city of Abbotsford is expanding evacuation orders due to the risk of flooding. People living on 82 properties in Huntington Village are being told to leave. Another order remains in place for 371 properties in Sumas Prairie West, while an alert for Claiborne Village has been lifted. The city says floodwaters from the Nooksack River have now started crossing into Abbotsford. Members of North Shore Rescue were called to assist with a rescue on the Chilliwack River overnight. 5 people were trapped on an island with the water rising around them. In a post on social media, the organization says 2 NSR technicians on a night hoist helicopter pulled 5 people and 4 dogs to safety over the course of several hours. And the city of Vancouver says it has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Vancouver Whitecaps to enter an exclusive negotiation period through next year to look at a new stadium and entertainment district that could be located at the Hastings Racecourse Park. A release from the city states they will work with the Whitecaps to negotiate terms for a ground lease, which would include stadium design and financial terms. Those are your headlines from the CBC Vancouver newsroom. For more information, you can go to the website, cbc.ca/BC.
Tarnjit, thank you very much. That's the CBC's Tarnjit Parmar joining us from the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Now, this newsroom here in Vancouver was incredibly busy last Friday, of course, as it was our Make the Season Kind fundraiser, our annual fundraiser in support of food banks around British Columbia. And so thank you so much to all of you for your generosity on that day, before that, and since. And because of that, we have reached a milestone, now reaching past $2 million in donations. And yes, so far, the total now stands at $2,015,644.27. And counting, of course. The donation website is open until the end of the month. Our sincere thanks to everyone who has contributed, and all of our guests as well who contributed to the energy and the enthusiasm on Friday. We just loved having you on. We loved having the kids on, our kid correspondents who shared news of kindness that you, our audience, sent in. Our musicians, our guests from the Great Canadian Baking Show, our magician as well, Blake Alliong. Thank you to all of you for being with us and sharing in this really important day. It is the highlight of our year for sure. All of this going to support the 111 food banks in BC. This started back in 1986, and to date, more than $24 million have been raised. Again, right now, our total for this year is $2,015,644.27. You can still donate. Go to cbc.ca/kindbc. It's 12:34 now. You're with BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks so much for being with us. Now, this is a time of year when we kind of think and reflect on our circle around us, whether it's our family, our friends, or our community. And a new poll from the Angus Reid Institute suggests that people who are regularly or highly involved in their community feel more likely to be satisfied with their life. Yeah, they express higher satisfaction with life. And people were asked whether they volunteer their time, donated money, participated in community activities, or if they socialized with neighbors or attended religious services. We're going to have that conversation right now, asking you, do you feel you belong to a community, if you're surrounded by a community, and what difference does that make for you? You can let us know. Love to hear from you. Just hit pound 690 on your cell phone, or you can dial 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Again, that's 604-669-3733. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. And leave a comment on our TikTok live as well. We are watching your comments there. Thanks for joining us on TikTok. My guest is Nick Wells, who's with the Union Gospel Mission, and he's been good enough to come here to our studio so I can feel a sense of community. Nick, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
What goes through your mind when you hear that people who feel more involved in their community tend to, in this poll anyway, tend to feel more satisfaction with life?
Yeah, I think it really speaks to, again, just talk about that kind of connection that you can get from one another, right? So we obviously at Union Gospel Mission have volunteers that help out every week. We have about 225 volunteers who help out at our big meal. So that's Christmas, which is coming up tomorrow, and the like of that. But it's those kind of little connections too. So we had one volunteer who was going through cancer treatment and shared that with the other staff and volunteers that she was working with in the kitchen. And when on the day she had finished her cancer treatment, she came into work, or volunteer in this case, and got presented with a cake, and it was just a nice little moment that she hadn't expected and celebrated. Another one that we have is newcomers to Canada. Yeah. So they are looking for a place to maybe test their English or maybe get a little bit more used to how the language flows. And they've felt really seen and valued by coming and doing that with us.
Those are great examples. I know that when I was a newcomer as well to Canada, I was a kid, but it certainly made a difference to my family. And community can mean different things to different people. I outlined a few examples there, whether it's your neighbors or if you volunteer, as you say. What does community mean to you?
It's interesting to me because I come from a blended family. My wife is also a first-generation immigrant as well. So to me, community is a bunch of different things. It's family, it's friends, it's work as well. So we at UGM also volunteer in our kitchen with doing our kind of drop-in and outreach programs, and I find a lot of community and a lot of fulfillment there as well for me.
You're absolutely right. Work is such a community as well. I feel that certainly when I come in. I'm thankful for that. We're asking our audience to weigh in as well. Let us know if you feel like you do belong to a community. There's a community around you, whatever that looks like. And what difference does that make for you? You can call us 604-669-3733. That's 604-669-3733 or 1-800-825-5950. Again, 1-800-825-5950. Or hit pound 690 on your cell phone. We're watching your comments on TikTok as well and on email. So again, that's bctoday@cbc.ca. We do have a caller on the line, and Ian is joining us from Victoria. Hi, Ian. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, and good day to you.
Thank you.
I've been a bike messenger. I've been a street performer here in Victoria for over 20 years. And although in my personal life I've always been a loner, that sure has taught me about the value of community. I can't even begin to tell you. I mean, just for example, there was, I get young parents after 22 years, young parents coming to me with their little ones saying that when they were little, they used to love to come and see the work that I do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Actually, I had a young female police officer tell me the same thing, and I couldn't help but feel a huge, almost familial relation. Like, wow, look at you, you're all grown up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do chalk paintings on the sidewalks, so that offers me the opportunity, as opposed to a musician, to put down what I'm doing and chat with people. And I've abandoned pretty much all judgment. Everybody. Do not judge people. You can't tell anything about anybody until you get to know them. No, I don't have Wi-Fi, and I don't have cable, so I don't get all lost in that quagmire. Instead, I just treat the people around me that I pass in the street or that I live with, and tip my hat, hold open the doors, and even if I don't know them, they don't particularly know me. It just creates a sense of we're all here together, we're all safe, and it's a friendly place, as opposed to all the really dark things that are happening in the world, where people turn against each other for the dumbest of reasons and inflict incredible cruelty on each other. And that's just being a part of a community.
Yeah.
Not just the people you know, or share the same ideas as you, but everybody.
Ian.
And,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, one final point example. I mean, there's a way of painting it. There's a lot of people who are going through it with the floods and the fires and so many other things. They're forced to work together. Now, we here on the southwest coast, we're all told there's going to be a big earthquake coming someday. And when it does, whether we know each other or not, we're going to be working together to help each other out. So why wait until then before we start treating each other as people that we pass in the street? People that we're standing in grocery lines with, and just say, hey, what are you planning on doing with that,
Yeah. Ian, you've hit the nail on the head. Wow, he said so many profound things there, and I think touching on the flood emergency that we've been going through in the Fraser Valley, and we heard from the mayor of Hope in our last half hour, and we were remembering the way that the community there showed up for people who were stuck due to highway closures in 2021, and he said now there's people who have become their longtime friends, lifelong friends, as a result of that. I love that. Thank you very much. What wisdom coming from his experience being a street performer. And I love that, writing chalk drawings on the ground and being able to talk to people. What he said as well, having conversations with people you may not agree with. And that was something that the Angus Reid Institute poll also found, is that people who were highly involved were more likely to find value in conversations with those whom they disagreed with. I wonder what you think of that in this polarized time we live in.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. And, while you can disagree with people or also maybe not understand someone's life circumstances as well. Yes. So, we have a lot of different community members who come through our doors, and volunteers help out there. And it's really interesting because there is one volunteer who is a Holocaust survivor. And so she has come in, has been coming for years and donates her time. And she says that she does it because she remembers the kindness that she saw when she came to Canada as someone who didn't know anybody or no one knew about her. So I think that kind of speaks to Ian's point about you don't really know someone, right? And you don't know what they may be going through or what they're dealing with. And just extending that kind of kindness and support is really lovely. And from there, from not knowing anybody, you can then create those connections as well. So we've got another group of volunteers who are all retirees, and now after months of working together, they now go out for brunch at the end of every month as a little kind of connection.
Speaking of retirees, Sharon wrote us, I live in a strata in Comox, and over the last 2 decades, we have created a community for seniors. In fact, now this email is coming from Sharon. I'm told Sharon has also called us from Comox. Hello there, Sharon.
Oh, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm so pleased to be able to tell you about our community.
Yes, so you're on the social committee of your strata, is that right?
Yes, yes. Okay, so they're separate. It's a completely separate committee. The strata council is the group of people who deal with the meat and the potatoes of living in Ocean Point, where we live. But with a social committee, we deal with the fun of living in Ocean Point.
I bet you do. What kinds of things do you do?
That's an interesting question. We have a golf tournament, and in June we have a garden party, and we pull out that cornhole game, and the competition is really fierce. And we have a trophy. In July, we have an ice cream social, and sometimes we have an arts and crafts show. In August, we have a pizza party and a white elephant event. And in the summer, you can see this doesn't take an awful lot to do. And you know what? It doesn't take money. It doesn't cost money. People don't donate. I have a little bucket and put it out there when we have an event, and people will sometimes throw money in. So in the summer, every Wednesday, if it's not raining, well, we come, bring your chair, bring your coffee. We'll sit and have coffee. And on Friday, we have Friday night lights. And you bring your chair and your own drink. We don't have a place to gather. We have outside, but we don't have like a room dedicated to that.
Really?
Every month we meet at the Comox Golf Course, and everybody just has their lunch, and we talk about the things that seniors talk about. And now, some people are not interested, but the greatest participators and supporters are 90, 93, 91, and 90. And I'm 81, and I love it. But there are some people who they're not interested, and all you can do is invite them.
Yeah. And so, Sharon, what difference does that make for you then?
Well, I don't have time to get depressed, and I don't have time to get sick, and it makes me exercise. And we have a Christmas party every year where we have the whole restaurant, we have a catered dinner, and we are into shenanigans. And all kinds of things. But we're not done. I'd love to have some outdoor movies. Well, that's a future project. I'm just looking for somebody.
Yes, it's nonstop. Oh, my goodness. Sharon, thank you very much. Very curious about the shenanigans you all get into. Thank you so much for the call. What a vibrant community you've created for residents in your strata as well. The Fun Committee, as she said. I'd love to hear from you. What is the community that you belong to, whether it is in your strata? If you're someone who works outdoors, as we heard from Nick, who was a street performer. Give us a call. Where do you find community, that sense of belonging, and what difference does that make for you? Our number, 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950. Sometimes it's a neighbor as well. And Joanne wrote us to say, my sense of community is created by having a roadside garden stand. My plants are half the price of most garden centers. It's my way of paying forward to grow your own food. I have met so many people in our neighborhood. People often stop if they see me or my partner in our front yard to say they had amazing success growing their tomatoes or peppers or cucumbers. And this year, a neighbor stopped by to ask if I would go to a website and register our home for a drive-by to see our outdoor decorations, as this is Christmas as well. So lots of community there in Joanne's neighborhood, and all because she started a roadside garden stand. Joanne, that's lovely. Thank you very much. bctoday@cbc.ca. Now, my guest is Nick Wells from the Union Gospel Mission as we talk about the value of community. We actually have someone here calling us now who has volunteered with the Union Gospel Mission, and Patrick is on the line from Vancouver. Hi, Patrick. Welcome.
Hey, Michelle. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to take a moment and, thank your program for highlighting UGM and all the good work that they do in the community. I work with them in a professional capacity. I'm not sure Nick and I have ever crossed paths before, but I do work closely with the team there and help supply them with some stuff, and have also taken the time to volunteer. So I just wanted to maybe take a minute to let your listeners know that, if you can't, maybe you're not in a financial situation to make a cash donation, but you can take time, and they take very good care of their volunteers. They fed me while I was volunteering. They have a great kitchen, a great chef that works there, delicious meals, and they're doing a lot of good for the community. So I'm glad you guys are putting a spotlight on them.
Yeah. What difference did volunteering make for you, Patrick?
Well, it makes you feel great. There's the saying, there's no such thing as a selfless act, right? And that is kind of true. So you do feel good about yourself. Sure. And you see an impact that they're making on the community, and being in the downtown east side, they're always in need of volunteers. I do a lot of work in the downtown east side. I'm actually down here right now. So just being able to help support that initiative it makes an impact on how you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Patrick, thank you very much for highlighting the work as well of the UGM and calling in. You take care, okay? Have a good day there. That's Patrick calling from Vancouver as we talk about the difference that belonging to a community makes in our lives. Again, our number is 604-669-3733. 1-800-825-5950. Irina sent us an email. I belong to an amazing community on my street here in Victoria, where I've lived for 28 years. We go caroling in the neighborhood at this time of year. We have fireworks at Halloween. We even have our own Facebook page. But the nicest part of living in this community is when you walk out the door, you often meet and chat with your neighbors, the way you get caught up on what's new. I also love how they help out by shoveling snow when we have it and mowing my lawn when I'm away. All in all, a great place to live. Irina, thank you very much for sharing that. It's BC Today at cbc.ca. Wonderful to hear about your neighbors. Pat is next now in Kamloops. And Pat, so you have found community with your pickleball group.
Yes, I joined pickleball about 2 years ago. And the reason I joined was because all my friends were playing, and I thought if I don't start playing pickleball, I'm not going to have anybody to play with.
Everyone's gone.
Yeah, and I really loved it. And I thought to myself, I loved it for all the normal reasons, like it's easy to learn and all those kinds of things. And then I thought, but there's got to be more to it. And then I found that it was like being a kid again. You could go to the park, pardon me, and, put your pickleball racket into the space there. And, within a few minutes, you're being asked to join a group, and suddenly you have 3 new friends. So it's just like being a kid and going to the park and saying, hey, you want to play?
Right, yeah, go down the slide or something.
And then I was saying to your producer there that we organized Christmas lunch this year, and there's quite a large group of us that play, and we've got to know each other over the last 18 months. And we see each other, quite a bit on the courts and stuff like that. So we thought, well, we'll have a lunch. And so we put out the word that we're going to have this Christmas lunch with the Secret Santa. And I organize a lot of things in my life, but I've never had a response like this.
Wow.
Went out to over 60-some people. 60-some people said yes.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, my goodness, Pat.
Yeah.
And this is just over the last couple of years since you've joined.
Yeah, 18 months, yeah.
That's amazing.
So it was amazing. I've never had a response like that before. And it's because we've created this really safe group, and people feel really good about going. And I've had people say to me that, I've been looking for a number of years to find a group to belong to here in Kamloops, and I haven't found it, but I have it with this group. And, we range in age from mid-50s, and our oldest is Nelson, and he's 83 or 84.
Yeah.
And another woman, she's a cancer survivor. She's 79. And she plays a really, really mean game of pickleball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the competition,
so I have, actually,
competitiveness is still there. Pat, thank you so much for the call. Great to talk to you. All the best. Merry Christmas to you in Kamloops. Enjoy the rest of your Christmas festivities with your pickleball group. Nancy is next in Victoria now. You want to talk about volunteering, Nancy?
Hi, Michelle. Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm a volunteer with the City of Victoria Emergency Support Services team. There are 100 of us. And these teams exist in every city and municipality around the province, so it's a large community if you look at it that way. But I'm also thinking today about those volunteers in Abbotsford and other parts of the Lower Mainland who are, working at the reception centres to help the people who've been displaced by the flooding. And they'll be working 24/7 until things settle down.
It's a very good thought to share, Nancy. Thank you very much. As these volunteers absolutely at the relief centers work hard today for people who have been evacuated under evacuation order or alert. Thank you very much, Nancy, for your call. Jillian is our final caller now from Port Alberni. Hi, Jillian. Welcome. What do you want to say about community?
If you want to get a real sense of your community, a cross-section of your community, one of the best things you can do this time of year is to volunteer ringing the Salvation Army kettlebells. The need is always there. You will see people that you have only seen once a year. You will get a complete snapshot of your community, and any money that's raised stays in the community. So it's the greatest way to experience the community that you're in. People you might never meet, you will meet there.
I love that. Jillian, thank you very much. And Nick, as you were saying, people who have a completely different life experience from you. And yeah.
Totally, yeah. And, you know, like volunteering and getting involved can sometimes, they can seem like there's a barrier, right? Not as many people volunteer because of economic impact or time. They feel like they don't have enough time. And, you know, like we as an organization are really grateful that we have volunteers who are willing to give up their time and like come down, serve a meal and stuff. And I think that one thing that last caller said about, you know, seeing people once a year, we at our meals sometimes see people every year throughout different years, but it's just like once a year, and it's a little touch point that we can have at a community event, say like, hey, like, how are you doing? And, you know, we also see that in our recent Christmas hamper store. We've had an employee who runs it, has been there for 19 years. So kids that he once helped find toys for now are having kids of their own. So he's seen these kind of different families grow and building that as a community as well.
That's like what Nick was talking about, you know, seeing someone who had grown up and almost feeling like they were family because
what the first caller was.
Yes, they had come by. And so even with the very entrenched issues that people in the downtown east side deal with, you feel that community makes a difference?
I think so. And I think the downtown east side is, you know, there's always, when it's portrayed, there's views of the kind of entrenched trauma that it undergoes, right? And while that is obviously true and there is trauma on a daily basis down there, there is also a lot of hope. And there's a lot of kind of stories that can come out of hope. We see people every day who come in maybe for a meal and then eventually hear about our recovery program or hear about our transitional housing. And, you know, in our women's and families building, we're able to have women with some of their children and like be able to host that. So you can hear that sense of community just from like the little outdoor playground that our women's and families building has. You can hear the kids yelling in the summertime. So while like the downtown east side has its entrenched issues, there is hope there as well.
It's great to hear from you about that today. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Really appreciate it. Nick Wells is with the Union Gospel Mission in Vancouver. That's it for us here on BC Today. Again, we will have much more coverage, of course, of the aftermath of yesterday's atmospheric river, watching the flood risk that does remain, according to the Minister of Environment, of Emergency Preparedness, and road closures continue. You can go to Drive BC and Emergency Info BC for the latest.